here, and welcome back to the channel, my fellow drifter maniacs from a very wet and windy Northern California. No sign of any sun today, so I thought I would use the opportunity to talk through my top 10 modifications that you can make to the WLTOYS 124019. Certainly my go-to car of the moment. And whilst in this video, I'm going to talk you through my top 10 easy to follow mods for this car to improve the performance and the handling of it. At the end of the video, I'm also going to touch upon what I'm considering doing with my stock 124019, of which I would like your opinion. Now, the first mod I'm going to talk about is lowering the stock car down from this to something that looks a little more like this. Now, for speed runs, I have just dropped the front down so it's more aerodynamic, so the front doesn't want to lift off at higher speed. But doing the modification I'm about to show you, you can easily drop the rear down as well, lower the centre of gravity, and the thing is going to handle even better than the stock car, which appears to look very high in comparison. So how did I do that? Effectively, I put in two droop screws, much the same you would find on one of the 6S armours, and by putting them in these holes that were already pre-drilled in the A-arms at the front and at the rear, by putting those screws in, tightening them down, you can lower the front of the suspension, and as they've got them in at the rear, you can also put two in at the rear, which I've not done, and lower the rear down as well. So that's the first modification to do, and it's pretty much free and easy. One modification number 2 that I would recommend doing is to fit foam tyres to the car. The stock tyres are absolutely great, outstanding handling over loose dirt actually, very predictable, nice feel to them. But if you're buying one of these with the idea of making it go faster, about 40 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour is the limit for these tyres before they start to balloon quite considerably, making the car a little bit skittish to say the least in the handling. If you do like I've done on my speed run car here and fit the foam tyres to it, yet they're a smaller diameter, but the car will handle like a dream in the dry with these fitted to it. High speed, even towards 100 miles an hour plus, these do not balloon at all. So that's mod number 2 for the 124019. And staying with that speed theme, the third modification that I would suggest doing is to fit Mod 1 gearing to your stock car. This will enable you to run pretty much any gear combination you want to. The stock car gearing is great, it's fairly durable as well, even with brushless power on there, but you are very limited as to what gearing you can run on the car. However, with my mod, you can fit Mod 1 gearing to the car, meaning that you can run pretty much any ratio you care to on this car. So even if you're not going brushless, I would recommend fitting the Mod 1 gearing, because even with the stock brush car, simply by changing the gearing, you're going to be able to get it to go much faster, even with the stock motor on there. Now, I did a video for this for the 144001. You want to see me do one for this car, have your say in the comment section below the video. And mod number 4 is also one related to gearing. If you're not worried about doing a Mod 1 conversion, but you want a little more durability out of the car, I would recommend buying the optional metal spur and pinion gear set for the car. The car comes with a metal pinion as standard, but it comes with a plastic spur, which is pretty durable. I've been running this on 3S at close on 100 miles an hour with the stock spur on there. However, for longevity, I'm probably going to fit this metal one over the coming few days. So for tip number 4, I would recommend you do likewise and change the metal gears. They don't cost an awful lot of money online, and it does increase the durability of that drivetrain. Now let's move on to modification number 5, which is also tied to modification number 6, as I'll explain in a second. The stock radio is good. The steering on this thing is very good indeed. By that I mean there's absolutely nominal lag. The steering is really quick on the car. However, the limitation is the distance that this thing transmits. After about 150-200 feet, it can begin to struggle a little bit. It does have a party trick that if a car gets out of range, it applies the brakes and pulls it up in a straight line. But if you're wanting to get this thing going much faster, you're going to be wanting to do speed runs, go a longer distance away, you're going to need to change the radio. However, it's a combined ESC and receiver, so there is going to be a slight issue, which I shall talk about as we move on to point number 6. I would recommend something like this Dumbo RC radio, 6 channels, built-in gyro, complete with the receiver, yours for around about $30. I'll put a link to it below the video. And I love this radio because besides the built-in gyro, which you can adjust, this thing has got a 500 meter range, which blows this out of the water. However, moving straight on to modification number 6, I will point out this is connected to a combined ESC and receiver in here. So you can't just drop this Dumbo radio into this car without changing the ESC and receiver. But my modification number 6 is to do like I've done and convert the car to brushless. If you're going to change the radio over, you're going to need a new ESC in there anyway, so you might as well go the whole hog and go brushless. You could use this with a brush setup on there and fit a cheap brushed ESC to the car, so that is one thing if you want to keep the cost down and still have a lot of fun with the car, because the stock motor is pretty good, so that is an option to you. But I would say, hand on heart, go brushless. That is my recommendation for mod number 6 to the car. And mod number 7 to the car is, if you go brushless, adjust the brakes. As stock, the Castle Sidewinder 4 that I had fitted to this car is set on 50% braking. As I found out to my horror at nearly 100 miles an hour, that's not good enough for this car. Certainly not at speed. So if you go brushless, take into account this thing is going to be flying along, easily going double the speed of the stock car, or even 3, possibly even 4 times the speed of the stock car. In which case, you're definitely going to need to think of the brakes. If you see me in videos, I go great brakes, I do that for a reason. Great brakes stop you stopping into walls and writing cars off. And mod number 8 is again a very low cost one, which is to fit metal wheel hexes to the WLTOYS 124019. The stock ones are plastic. If you tighten the wheels in too much, certainly the stock wheels, you can squeeze the hex back onto the pin and it can have issues and stiffen the whole drivetrain up on there. Whereas these metal ones, you can tighten the wheel nut as hard as you like on there and it doesn't flex, doesn't cause any problems at all. And if you've gone brushless, it'll certainly help you put the power down through the wheels. And these are absolutely dirt cheap to buy. Well, point number 9, not so much a modification as a tip. Check the shock oil in the car. The obvious thing being is to check there's plenty in there and it's not too low. However, it seems to have been a problem with these cars that they can be overfilled, and that can cause the problem that I had on this car originally, is that one of these shock absorbers just did not want to bend down. It was like I had a super strong spring just on one wheel. Now obviously at high speed that's dramatically going to affect the handling, because if you've got one wheel with barely any suspension travelling and the other one which is just going to fly up in the air like normal, when the car hits a bump you're going to have real issues with the handling. So make sure you've not got any binding within the shocks. That's my tip number 9, pretty much free and easy to do. And also, with this car being lightweight, you might want to play around with the shock oil to get it handling the way you want, because changing the shock oil on this car, given it's lightweight, is going to dramatically affect how the car handles. But I will leave that down to you, as that's a personal thing in terms of driving preference. And point number 10, I know a couple of people out there on YouTube have already raised this, is check the diff grease. I have to say, I've not done. And I know a couple of people out there have done videos on it saying you must check the diff grease before you run this car. I've not done, not had any issue with it, but I believe it is something that can be like a hit or miss problem. A lot of the cars are fine, they've got perfectly good diff grease in there, and other cars have got next to nothing in there. So I do believe other people, I would follow their advice, and so I'm kind of passing tip number 10 on, and it is a tip rather than a modification. So if you're in the slightest bit worried, you've got a little bit of time on your hands, let's face it, who hasn't in the current circumstances, then check the diff grease on your 124019 before using it. Well, lastly, at the start, I did say I needed your help, or more to the point, I would like your opinion on the following. First of all, should I convert this stock car to run Mod 1 gearing? And you might be thinking, well, yeah, okay, Rich, it might not be bad, I'd like to see that work, but I'm doing that with the thought of fitting this Surpass Hobby 3.5 turn brushless motor to the car and seeing just how fast this can go. Now this has got a Sidewinder 4 ESC in here, but I've got a spare Castle Mamba X ESC, which would also squeeze in here and enable me to really let that motor rip loose. Particularly, I'm thinking, if I turn the timing up, as this is the equivalent of about an 11,000 kV brushless motor. So should I take some brave pills, convert this to Mod 1 gearing and fit that crazy motor and the Castle Mamba X to the car? Have your say in the comment section right now. But most of all, if you've got a WLTOYS 124019 or are thinking of getting one, I hope my top 10 modifications for it today ticked all the right boxes. If they did, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Well, thumbs up if you like this video, guys. Post any comments you might have in the comment section below the video and hit the circle below to subscribe. And if you do hit the circle, don't forget to hit the bell.